Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Advantages to Aging. And today we're going to explore taking chances. Today I have with me Tiffany Mason, who is the fabulous editor and podcaster herself of Memories with a Beat and the editor of this podcast, Advantages to Aging. So if you're looking for a phenomenal editor, you definitely want to check the show notes so that you can get in contact with her. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you so much, Debbi-Jo. I'm so excited about the opportunity. Talk about taking chances. Can be scary, can be nerve-wracking, or as we say in our house, nervousing. But yeah, I'm excited to dig in and share what I think about it.
Awesome. Now, do you mind if I share the decade that you are in?
Oh, go nuts. Yeah.
So Tiffany is in her 40s, so some of you listeners might not think of her as an older individual because, for me, she's just a kid. But she has really caught my eye because she has the ability to kind of throw caution to the wind, some might say, or stand on her faith, some might say, and say, I'm going to give this a shot and go for it. So can you just share with the audience some of the cool things that you've been doing other than virtually you?
Yes. Well, so we have some new things, but I don't know if you're aware of all the things. So just for your audience sake too, I'm going to rattle them off really quick. My husband does have a 9 to 5. We also have a restaurant in St. Augustine, Florida, and that is called Farm Hand Kitchen. So if you're ever in the area, stop by for something tasty. He also has recently started a company called Food Forest Abundance First Coast. And that is helping people to have their landscape be edible. It's a way for them to sustainably be growing food in an urban setting. So you don't have to have acres of land, but it's helping you to provide food for your family, for yourself, no GMOs, no pesticides, all that good stuff. And then I have had Virtually You, which is the podcast editing business. And then I am a brand partner with Neora, with little Debbi-Jo. And we help to make the world a little bit more beautiful, one skincare regimen at a time. Okay. And then I also have my podcast, Memories with a Beat. But the newest thing that I think that Debbi-Jo is referring to is our coffee cart. It's called Florida Coffee Peddler. And if you just kind of think like France and the flower peddlers, it's kind of that idea, or like a hot dog stand that people would ride around. Same kind of idea. It's got pedal assist, and then the front is where I'm brewing up some amazing espresso and making coffee and caffeinating my neck of the woods.
And having yummy things that your husband makes.
Yes. I just want to say that this backs up all the way to when I was 18. I actually knew my husband for 3 weeks when he got transferred on his job. And I thought that was the end of our relationship. And he said, well, would you consider moving with me? And I was like, oh gosh. And after a few conversations, I was like, I could do that. So I moved in with him after knowing him like a very short amount of time. We'd only been dating for 3 weeks. Then he got a job, like they hunted him down and they said, we're in Chicago though. And he said, what do you think, Tiff? And I was like, let's go try it. And then, other things in the middle of there. But then we were in upstate New York, and my husband says, we were trying to get to Charleston, South Carolina. And my husband says, well, Jacksonville's got a spot. What do you think? And I said, close enough. Let's go. So that is something that we've been doing forever. And even most recently, I was driving a school bus in the morning. I was coming home editing. I'd have to go back and drive the school bus, come home and edit again. And so we were trying to find solutions because I was telling my husband it was just too much for me to constantly be switching modes mentally. It was so tricky. I'd get in the middle of something. I'd be excited about it. I'd look at my watch and realize I had to go back to get on the bus. So he was looking at this coffee cart, and I always tell people to think of like London and the flower peddlers. They've got their little bike, and then on the front they've got their flowers. And that's kind of the idea we have. We call it the Florida Coffee Peddler, and we serve coffee off of it, as well as these amazing, we call them provisions, that my husband bakes himself. And we've just been having so much fun with it. But when he showed it to me and he was like, "What do you think, Tiff?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's try it." So that's just kind of, I mean, the worst, I've always had a just ask policy. Just ask. The worst thing somebody can say is no. So it's kind of the same idea. The worst thing that can happen is it fails, which is not fun, which is hard on your ego. But as somebody told me, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, your ego is not your amigo. And so I just dust it off, and I guess I just don't really care what other people think. And so we move on to the next thing. That's the worst thing that can happen is it fails. But you don't die.
Right. Not the end of the
Your
world.
friends don't stop being your friends.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's a great point. People are in different places in their journey, and I know that not everyone really digs deep into personal development or pays attention to inspirational quotes, but I happen to know that your inspiration comes a lot from your faith. And so I don't want to guess. I want to ask you, is that your foundation from which you spring off?
It really truly is, because we have moved from Iowa to Minnesota to Wisconsin, back to Minnesota, over to New York, down here to Florida. And in all of those, there's a lot of limbo, right? There's a lot of, okay, what is our job going to look like where we are going? What is our house going to look like where we're going? How are things going to come together? And at the end of the day, I always lean very, very hard on do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough worries of its own. And that's so true. It doesn't matter how much I worry tonight. When I wake up tomorrow, whatever's going to happen is what's going to happen. Whatever's going to transpire is what's going to transpire. So there's really no sense in me getting so worked up. And I probably learned that from my husband when we very first met. I would be just beside myself about something, and I would present it to him, and he would say, "Okay, Tiff, it's okay." And he would just bring that energy level down. And, I could clearly think, and we would get through whatever it was at the time. So, I think by the time that you're in your mid 40s, that you have seen all these inspirational quotes, you have read a lot of scripture, and you have these verses to rely on, or you have, something motivational that somebody has said, or maybe you've heard it multiple times and finally it lands and it clicks in your brain. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that I just have to go on, the promises I know that God has put out for me, and know that He always wants the best for me, and try to just rely on that. And I mean, I'm human. I'm not saying I'm perfect with this, but there is a lot of truth in the Bible for us. And so just relying on that and going on the fact that I know He loves me and I'm His daughter. I know how much I want the best for my children. I know He wants the best for His children too.
Yes, and I was going to mention that to the listeners, if you were thinking that Tiffany and her husband, are traipsing around the country with no children, no family to be worried about, that's not true. That's not true. But they're a good example to their kids that you don't have to always be frightened of things, and that you should be able to not worry so much about what other people think about you. And I think that oftentimes you're right, Tiffany, that as we get older, many of us care less about what other people think, and care more about what we feel. And some people might not be there yet.
Yeah.
Debbi-Jo with Neora. You know what our brand partners love the most about their Neora business? They can do it from anywhere. Think about it. Haven't you always wanted to have your own schedule, be your own boss, maybe even have a global business and be able to run it from your favorite coffee shop or lounging by the pool or seaside, not having to go into the office? We make sure that all of our brand partners have all of the tools they need to run their business while fitting it into their busy lives. So if that's something that you've been curious about, what it might be like for you to be able to do life on your own terms, then I think we need to chat.
So not having the faith as strong as yours, or maybe still in that space of people that are still worried about what other people think. I know that passion is a big driver for you, and how can those
Mhm.
people create something fueling that passion that will help them to overcome those other things?
Well, first of all, I want to back up just a little bit in the conversation where you said we are traipsing around with our children, which is completely true. Our son is in college now, and he shared with me that he was maybe thinking about moving to Portland, which came by surprise. And at first, I was like, the mom and me, I'm like, oh, I don't like that. But then a piece of me was so happy that we have taught our children, you'll be fine wherever you land, and you don't know what you're going to, but go try it out. So I couldn't help myself but to encourage him as far as that would be. And then selfishly, I was like, hey, that'd be kind of cool for me to go visit him and get to experience all of that. So, there's nothing wrong with encouraging your children to be adventurous, also to not care what other people think. We've got to start instilling that in our children early and be an example of that. And I think it is true. The older you get, the less you care so much about, who's watching you or what's happening, or does your outfit, make them happy. You care more about yourself, and you start to realize it's not really other people's opinions that matter so much. It's that fulfilled feeling that you feel inside. And I think that, I don't know if I would say like, I'm so old and I'm, aging gracefully or anything to that extent, but I did have a moment. My son actually left to go back to college today. And I was thinking there was something that came up on my Facebook scroll, maybe like some little baby clothes or something. I was like, wow, I'm like out of that. I'm like, I'm on my last 2 years of middle school, and then we'll have another high schooler. It's such a weird feeling for me. So I definitely am entering that next chapter. But I think when you're done with the busyness and the hustle bustle of having kids, there's that fulfillment piece that you're looking for, right? Like, how do I still be a part of the community? And I'm glad that we moved a lot when our kids were little, because that's how I made friends. But I can easily see this new path where I'm going to be needing to make friends in a different way. And I think it's easier to make friends when you have the same passions, right? So if you're volunteering in the same areas, or maybe you are really passionate about skincare like yourself, maybe you join this group, this fabulous business, this company, Neora, and you end up meeting other women that are equally as excited about, having something that they are fulfilled with. Yeah, you may have had this, amazing corporate job. You didn't have to worry about anything, and it was secure and you felt safe. But then you switch and you say, you know what, I'm going to try something for me now. You've maybe made your money, or you're in a position where you're a little bit more comfortable to step out on your own. And you know what? Maybe you're not comfortable to step out on your own, but you're just tired of being miserable. And I think that's okay too. And, it's not always about money at the end of the day. I think the more and more you get older, the more you just want to be enjoying life. And so if going to Neora makes you happy, or, you start being a personal trainer, or something that you just never thought you would do, something you didn't go to school for, or you want to open a coffee cart because you've been doing the restaurant for 20 years and you just want to do something different, there's nothing wrong with any of that. And I always say, like, the American dream is there for Americans too, you guys. It's not there just for some immigrant. There is something to be said for, you know what? I want to be happy. I want to be doing something I love, I enjoy. I'm going to start selling this skincare, and I'm going to share it with everybody else. And that's going to be my contribution to helping the population feel beautiful and confident and healthy. There's nothing wrong with that. So I say, if you want to try something new, go for it.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And the one point that I would add is that when you're looking at what you wish to do, don't think that the vehicle that you take is what you have to be passionate
Mm,
about. It's what that vehicle allows you to do that will let your passion grow. So as Tiffany mentioned, if you're into skincare and you go like, oh, but I'm not passionate about skincare. You don't have to be passionate about skincare. I'm very passionate about helping make people better. And this is a piece of me being able to make that contribution. So don't let things like confine you. You're big, you're bold. Spread your wings and try things out.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening in to another episode of Advantages to Aging. If you found something of interest or something has inspired you to take that passion within you and start your own little side gig, then come visit the Facebook group by the same name, Advantages to Aging, and drop your comments below there, and let's continue the conversation. Until next time, this is DJ Horton with Advantages to Aging.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.